Think for a moment about which films you often tend to revisit. Maybe it's the ones that give you comfort. Are they films that you can look at differently on each screening? I think a lot about the kind of films I often revisit. I've seen Fantastic Planet over 10 times, as well as The Lighthouse, House, Eraserhead, Hereditary, Nightmare Before Christmas, so many more. From my standpoint, these are the kind of films I often revisit because not only do they give me comfort, they are very important to me. As an aspiring filmmaker, these films often hold power over me. They inspire me. They remind me of why I want to go into the industry so badly. When rewatching a film, there's a comfort of familiarity. We know the characters, the plot, and the ending. There are no surprises or plot twists that can catch us off guard. This sense of predictability can be comforting, well, especially when we're feeling stressed or anxious. Which is odd, as these are some of my comfort films, and most of these are not really comforting to watch. But since I've developed a strong personal connection with these films already, there's something about them that I can't help but revisit whenever I don't want to watch anything new. I would gladly pop in my Criterion of Eraserhead while the films rotting in my Letterboxd watch list see me log it for the 12th time this year. You see, it's strange because there's so many great films that I've seen and given a 10 out of 10, but haven't watched it more than once. And why would I pick a film I've seen a million times over than that one really good movie I saw in theaters years prior that I don't really remember much about? I've tried taking breaks sometimes from rewatching some of my favorite films of all time, like it's probably been over 3 years since I've last rewatched Pulp Fiction or Parasite. Both are masterpieces, but nowadays they would never be my first pick for a movie night. Now on the other hand, if I'm showing someone these films for the first time, then I feel more obligated to watch them again because now I'm getting someone else's fresh perspective on a film I love. And in doing this, I almost feel like I'm rewatching the film for the first time. The question I've thought about for a long time of if you could go back and rewatch a film for the first time again, what would it be? And if I had to choose one, I would have no idea, because there's so much about the first experience for many movies that adds to how I react to it. I often follow movies from their announcement to their first trailer to their release, each step making me more and more excited. Probably the most I've ever wanted to see a film in my life was The Lighthouse by Robert Eggers. From seeing this first image of the film, I was immediately drawn to it. A24 producing it, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe in a lighthouse in this beautiful black and white photography. I just had to see it. The trailers added only more fuel to the fire with each review and each clip that got released. It just made me more and more antsy. So much so that when the film released, it played nowhere near me. So I drove 2 hours to a theater and back just to see this film. And when I saw it, it was great. But I didn't know what the fuck they were saying half the time. So the question, if you could rewatch a film for the first time again, what would it be? Is just so hard for me to answer because I often get super excited around a film's release, then actually seeing the film is just a very casual experience. Rewatching movies is something I do very often, but my question is, what makes a film rewatchable? Well, as I said before, mostly nostalgia and comfort plays an important role in answering this question. But I often look at the contents of the film as the reason for coming back to it. Look at all of Edgar Wright's films. I guarantee you have missed many things that you didn't catch on a first viewing. There are hundreds of cool little details in Baby Driver that go along with the music, go along with the photography, even this horribly aged line from Kevin Spacey.
I didn't stop him though because I was just blinded by the balls on that kid.
And sure, you could look up a YouTube video and see what you had missed, but where's the fun in that? It makes finding these small details on your own all the more satisfying. Even looking at other films that utilized foreshadowing in unique ways makes revisiting them so much more interesting. Fight Club, Shawshank Redemption, The Usual Suspects, and The Godfather all have great foreshadowing that led to incredibly satisfying rewatches. Now, something else I have found myself doing very frequently is rewatching bad movies. Sure, watching bad movies makes you appreciate the masterpieces much more, but what is it that makes me constantly come back to these shitty movies? Well, for me, in this instance, I have an unhealthy obsession with the Saw franchise. Something I intend to do a full video on in the future, but this franchise is so insane, so stupid, that every year I sit down and rewatch this entire franchise. Why? Because of how much enjoyment I get from the hilarious editing, the fucking terrible scripts,
What's your name?
My name is very fucking confused. What's your name?
the shitty acting,
I know it's you son of a bitch!
Larry.
Holly?
and the twists that completely destroy each film's logic with each film after the next. These films are a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't like these movies specifically, but they're just so fucking fun to watch that I keep coming back to them every single year. It's almost like a yearly tradition for me to sit down and suffer through these movies, and laugh even harder as I progress through each film. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get across here is that films gain a special place in our hearts. They can terrify us. They can make us nostalgic for the time we first saw a film, from our childhoods, or even from a few years ago. I often feel nostalgic for films that came out in 2019. Not only because at that time I started really taking cinema seriously as an art form, but since I was locked in a home from the pandemic, I had so much time to see so many new masterpieces that I'd heard so much about. So yeah, rewatching movies is a cool thing, and I don't think getting into the habit of rewatching movies constantly is bad at all. New movies will always be available, but I feel like revisiting movies with a new perspective is extremely important. And with that, I'm now gonna go rewatch every Saw film ever made.